I'm Ron Rolfing, and I'm the Preferred Vendor Coordinator here at ACAP. And I'd like to welcome everyone to our latest Education Series webinar. And today's webinar is presented by CommandDirect. With me today is Gary Bolnick, President of CommandDirect, and he will be presenting the webinar, Health Plan Communications, Strategies for Document Cost Reduction and Compliance. As I hope everyone knows, the purpose of our ACAP Education Series is to share the preferred vendors' vast knowledge on topics that are of interest to ACAP health plan members. But before I turn it over, I have a few housekeeping items I need to take care of. This webinar, along with all ACAP calls and webinars, will be held in accordance with the ACAP antitrust guidelines. And these guidelines can be viewed on our website. We will be recording today's call, and we will post the slide deck and recording on our website. You'll receive an email when these items are ready to view. As always, keep an eye out for additional webinars scheduled throughout the remainder of the year. And as a reminder, our list of preferred vendors is on the ACAP website. Just look at the top of the page and click on preferred vendors. And it's a great spot to look when your plan is issuing a new RFP. During our call today, you can ask a question at any time. You can do that by typing in your questions in the questions box in the control panel and hit send. And all questions will be answered at the end of the call. Now I'd like to pass it over to Gary.
Thank you, Ron. And hi, everybody. My name is Gary Bolnick, and as Ron mentioned, I'm the president of CommandDirect. Command is proud to be a preferred vendor of ACAP, and today we want to apply our experience and expertise to help improve the process of creating, producing, and distributing your documents, also known as document management. Today's webinar is titled Health Plan Communications, Strategies for Document Cost Reduction and Compliance. As you all know, in today's complex and uncertain environment, communicating with your members and providers can be extremely challenging. Some of the challenges include meeting CMS deadlines for all required mailings, capitalizing on cost-effective printing and mailing solutions, and taking advantage of opportunities for postage reduction. You'd be surprised at some of the potential savings that are available there. Also, provider directory creation and production, meeting today's challenging requirements. Today, I'm going to tackle each of these items, and I look forward to providing some insight into these areas. Today's webinar will focus on providing specific strategies for document management, hidden opportunities for cost reduction, and adding immediate and direct value to your strategic approach. I'm hoping that you can leave today's seminar with two things. One, some important questions you could bring to your team that will help make more informed decisions about your materials. And second, a few specific solutions and strategies that you can implement immediately. So starting at a high level, from the moment a member enrolls, the decisions you make regarding your communications with them can have a significant impact on several items. One, the member experience. This includes how well you engage your members and your success at retaining them. Second is the ease and cost to comply to regulatory timelines and requirements. And third, the demands on your internal infrastructure, your member services department, your IT department. And finally, the bottom line, the cost savings can be dramatic. So today's webinar will dive into many of these areas, and we consult our clients every day on these types of items. I'm hoping you can come away with some valuable takeaways. Before going into the specific challenges and solutions, first, who is CommandDirect? Command is a health plan communication specialist, and while our roots are in printing and mailing, Command has evolved into a technology company that is completely dedicated towards automating and streamlining processes relating to health plan documents. We currently manage communications and document services for Medicare, Medicaid plans, and commercial plans nationally. Command currently manages communications for over 30 health plans nationally, including 4 ACAP members. These 30 health plans include Medicare, special needs plans, long-term care, Medicaid, and commercial lines of business, and we handle plans that are both large and small and represent a broad range of diverse members. Our intelligence platform provides automated material management for over 40 million pieces per year. This automated approach manages all areas of the document management process, from creation to production to distribution. Our complete focus is on enhanced member engagement, streamlined communications, and cost reduction. Also, our directory builder platform currently manages the creation, production, and distribution of provider directories for over 25 plans. And this solution also encompasses an online provider search tool. We're proud to be the leading provider of directory solutions in the nation. Finally, our approach. It's simple. Because we're plugged into an industry, all the industry requirements, we're experts in printing and mailing and programming, and we specialize in postal discounts. And finally, we've developed software solutions built to streamline your process. Our clients typically see extraordinary savings. Okay, so taking a step back, the question you may be asked is, why do we need a document management plan? After all, you have a printing and mailing vendor, and they do a great job. You have an internal mailroom, they do a good job too, and you have a marketing and member services team that manages these processes internally. What we found is the challenge is that health plan document management requires a level of expertise not found with most traditional print vendors. And while an ad agency or a business process outsourcing firm may understand your industry, they don't always understand the manufacturing processes and postal options to be leveraged in your favor. Health plan document management requires two key components. One, understanding who you are and where you're going as a company in order to determine your specific production requirements. And two, planning your purchases months in advance and asking the right questions. How will your items be constructed and designed? What does your data look like, and can it be standardized? What are your primary lines of business, and do you have a postal strategy? How many resources are you dedicating to return mail management, and what are the costs? These are just a couple of the questions we typically ask, and the answers can change the scope of your spend and the level of your member engagement. Finally, before going into the solutions, we want to address the variables that can impact your decision-making process. Each plan is different, and there's no single solution for health plan communications. Our process typically involves an initial analysis of who you are and where you're going. And the reason why is that the tools we use and the production techniques available are very different based on your organization. For instance, if you're a regional plan, are you taking advantage of full postal discounts based on pre-sorting and trucking opportunities? Are you utilizing data cleansing services to reduce undeliverable mail? If you're a small plan, can you use a completely different set of production techniques to compete with the big plans? And do you have branding guidelines in place? Are your members receiving their materials quickly? And can you report on mail dates for CMS audits? With so many variables, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. So understanding who you are and where you're going will determine the approach we take from both a budgetary and regulatory standpoint. With that being said, let's get into the challenges. Challenge number one, how to meet CMS state deadlines for all required mailings and reduce cost. As we all know, meeting CMS deadlines requires careful planning. A strategic approach will provide significant efficiencies for print production, direct mail, and postal savings. In our experience, we found that most health plans are so focused on meeting those deadlines that many of the cost savings opportunities are bypassed. Most specifically, a well-planned open enrollment timeline opens the door to alternative classes of mail that can cut postage costs by as much as 50%. Some other cost-saving options to be discussed would be on-demand production, as opposed to printing and storing your materials. Also preparing model documents for 508 compliance, and where does email communication fit into the mix? Excuse me. So let's take a look at a typical timeline we provide to our ANOC, the annual notice of change clients. Excuse me. These types of timelines are useful tools for all of our clients' document needs, especially during open enrollment. It also helps manage other recurring member communications, such as help reminders or ID cards. This grid illustrates the complexity of the process from document creation through distribution. So with so many steps and so little time, coordination really is the key. As you can see from the timeline, we've designated specific allowances for each function. By meeting these dates, we're able to take advantage of several opportunities, including number one, full postal discounts. For example, mailing an ANA using certain mail classifications will reduce your postage costs significantly. This is something most plans are not aware of, and quite frankly, most printing and mailing companies aren't either. Reduce remediation time and costs would be another opportunity. If models are populated properly, the work on the back end is significantly reduced. Third, new production techniques, which offer lower prices and quicker turn times, which I'll cover in our first case study. And finally, planned decisions instead of desperate measures. So how does pre-production planning impact your bottom line? Preparing files correctly upfront, from populating models to creating new documents, will save thousands in printing, postage, and 508 compliance costs. Some examples. First, a print vendor can leverage the proper equipment by combining items to be produced. So when you coordinate print purchases, you can take advantage of new production techniques that have revolutionized the process. Second, Second, postage. Postage is one of the most significant costs plans face, and it often is just accepted as a cost of doing business. Postal services such as pre-sorting data, address cleansing, return mail processing, automation using alternative classes of mail can provide major savings, and this will be discussed a little bit more later. Finally, model documents often require translation and 508 compliance remediation. Knowledge of these services and how they work needs to be a part of your overall strategy. Just going to take a quick drink of water, excuse me. As a mini case study, let's talk a little bit about translations. Translating model documents can be a costly and time-consuming process. The key to successfully navigating the process requires a basic understanding of the workflow. First, providing your translation company with the model documents in Word or InDesign will automate the process. If you provide your translation vendor with a PDF, your costs can increase dramatically. Second, your translation vendor must specialize in healthcare translations for one reason, and that would be translation memory, how it works. So translation memory stores translated words and phrases into a database that can be leveraged for future projects. This means, for example, that if your vendor has previously translated an evidence of coverage book for any client, the translation memory will help reduce cost and time by as much as 50%. So you need to use a translator that has access to the right translation memory and has experience in health plan documents. In addition, language can be subjective, so clients might have one translation they prefer over another. Translation memory ensures that every project will use your approved terminology. And finally, translation memory saves time. This allows you to meet those deadlines laid out in the previous timeline, ensuring reduced printing, mailing, and postage costs. This is just one example of how a properly managed process can save time and money in several areas. Finally, there's data, probably the most critical variable in the process. One of the things we recognized long ago is that data standardization is the key to automation. By ensuring that the data we receive from you is consistent and accurate, we can do a few things. One, we can automate communications directly from your data. This includes letters, ID cards, and packets, and means that your members will receive plan materials quickly and cost effectively. It also takes the stress off your IT department from a programming perspective. Second, we can provide an analysis of postal discounts. Know your options before you print, as you may want to make adjustments. For example, sometimes simply changing the paper weight of your materials can bring you to an entirely new class of mail with savings you would be amazed at. And finally, Data standardization will allow us to populate software that will generate provider directories, EOBs, premium invoices, all in a turnkey fashion. So with data driving the material creation, there's less proofing and logistical challenges. And that takes us to challenge 2. Capitalizing on opportunities for cost-effective printing solutions. Depending on your plant size and structure, the equipment utilized to produce your materials can dramatically reduce your expenditures. Simply put, your print vendor must have access to the right technology and equipment to meet all of your needs. Today's technology provides tremendous opportunities to offer your members high-quality, personalized pieces produced on demand. The challenge is that each printing and fulfillment company has specific strengths that are not typically built around your requirements. The production methods utilized to produce your materials will determine not only the cost savings opportunities, but will also ensure that branding guidelines are met and regulatory timelines are adhered to. As illustrated in this graphic, the 2 primary methods of producing your documents each have distinct advantages relating to quantity and quality, speed, papers, personalization. Your print vendor needs to be advising you on how to leverage these methods to your advantage. An example of the dramatic savings offered is illustrated in the following case study with an ACAP member. Last year, our client, an ACAP member, challenged us with helping to reduce cost and turn time for their pre-enrollment kit and welcome kits. For our client, their process of creating and distributing their pre-enrollment kits was typical of most plans. They produced 9 to 10 individual components that would be printed, stored, and assembled as needed, and the components would be inserted into an envelope and mailed via first-class mail. Our solution was what we called self-contained pre-enrollment kits. This approach changed things dramatically. All documents are electronically merged and stored as one dynamic book, organized by line of business. Pre-enrollment kits are now personalized and printed and mailed on demand, allowing for several advantages. 1, it's now an easy-to-use booklet that simplifies the process for members. Instead of receiving 9 to 10 pieces, they're receiving one book that has everything together. Second, it eliminates the assembly and storage component of the project, creating quicker turn times and allowing flexibility to make changes to the documents as needed. And finally, it changed the class of mail. As a book, instead of individual components, the pre-enrollment kit now qualifies as another class of mail called bound printed matter. This reduces postage expenses dramatically. As you can see, the client saved dramatically. To date, they've saved over $30,000 annually in production and postage costs, and their members are receiving a much more user-friendly version of the kit. Combining print technology with postal knowledge can be a powerful resource, which leads us into challenge number 3, optimizing postal savings. Of all of the expenses health plans budget for, postage is traditionally the #1 cost savings opportunity. Unfortunately, the post office does not advise organizations as to how to make use of their services. A mail expert will be able to leverage assorted USPS services to ensure that your mail is delivered on time and at a lower cost than you thought possible. Why you need a postage strategy? Well, there's 2 primary reasons, and #1 is savings. The savings opportunities are significant. #2 is mail that is undeliverable will have tremendous negative impacts, including delayed communications, wasted postage and print costs. In the case of something like a premium invoice, there's delayed payments and lost opportunities. And most importantly, there's that decreased member engagement and retention component. When it comes to postal savings, these items are required for every plan, both large and small. First, address correction. The key question is, are you correcting addresses before you mail? By correctly using postal tools, your data should be address corrected, which validates the address, and NCOA'd, which identifies those that have moved on a regular basis. There will always be some return mail, but by scrubbing your data before each mailing, it will be greatly reduced. Second is return mail management. Do you have a process to manage return mail? Delays in processing return mail can create a disconnect with a member and often results in excessive waste. If you're not updating the addresses quickly, you will continue to mail to incorrect addresses, resulting in wasted printing and postage costs, and generally a frustrated member. The tools are available to automate this process. By barcoding all outgoing mail with return mail code that links to your mail file, plans can quickly update their records. And finally, pre-sorting services. Leveraging alternative classes of mail and using tracking services are all valuable tools that the post office offers. Your mail vendor must be educated on these important opportunities. While all these services are valuable individually, leveraging all postal services together can dramatically optimize the results. Here's an example of a postal tool that can really help you manage your mail. The post office offers address correction services that are extremely economical. By choosing the correct endorsement, which is the copy that goes below your return address, you'll be instructing the post office how to handle return mail and ensuring that you can update your addresses quickly. Since most companies are not aware of all these options, they choose the return service requested endorsement. This endorsement tells the post office to return the mail to you with a reason code, and you pay the first-class rates on the pieces coming back. The right endorsement for most plans, however, is the address service requested endorsement. In this case, the mail does not come back to you, but the post office will provide electronic notification of the reason the piece was not delivered, along with a correct address if available. There's a minor fee for this electronic notification, but it's well worth the investment. No more return mail management, data entry, or delays. This will dramatically reduce the amount of return mail handled by your staff and will allow you to update addresses quickly through an automated process. This is one small example of how some postal knowledge can improve the process and reduce costs. And finally, there's challenge 4, provider directory creation and production adapting to demanding requirements. Of all the documents you're required to produce, the provider directory can be the most challenging. With new demanding requirements, including monthly data refreshes and 3-day mail requirements, translation, and 508 compliance, automation through software is really the only way to meet these requirements economically. Here's an example of how our approach changed the way our clients do business. One of our clients is a national Fortune 500 company. They produce between 800 and 1,000 versions of their directories a year and have an entire department dedicated to this process. The challenges they face are consistent with all plans, both large and small, and include data coming from multiple sources. It's hard to control data integrity when files come from third parties. Data accuracy is always a challenge, timeline challenges, and the cost of 508 compliance. The solution is an automated process to standardize data. That's the critical component is in order to automate the import, we need to ensure that your data conforms to the requirements. We also need to utilize postal cleansing software. We automated the merges to create directories in an automatic fashion, and we remediate documents programmatically. The result was dramatic. With new CMS requirements in place, our client's provider directory volume increased by 300% with no increase in cost. The client no longer needs to expand staffing for production and can focus on their data and on the proofing process. They have limitless capacity, and with volume rising, they're now dealing with a solution that is scalable. They don't have to make investments in programming and software. And finally, there's the reduction in remediation. Generating directories through an automated approach ensures that documents are produced 508 compliantly, so you don't need to pay a separate resource to perform that task. I think the best way to sum up this specific solution is that there are some processes that need to be solved through programming. As with all complicated solutions, it comes down to asking the right questions about your specific requirements. In order to ensure that you're asking the right questions regarding your process, we've developed a simple questionnaire that I can share out to those interested at the end of the seminar. Finally, tying it all together, the strategic approach to communications. We've covered a lot of ground in a short time. As a quick summary, here are some of the key points. 1, the strategic approach is about asking the right questions. By understanding your specific requirements, you and your vendor can make smart decisions. Your vendor must have a clear understanding of healthcare requirements and your organization in order to streamline the process. More importantly, the analysis of your requirements in February and March can have a dramatic impact on the costs in October and November. Second, you need to leverage today's production techniques and expert postal knowledge to your benefit. A simple analysis of last year's documents may uncover options that can help you cut costs and be compliant. And finally, data. Data is the key to automation. From data cleansing to document creation, your vendor must have the tools in place to turnkey your material management. This includes address correction services, automated communications, and provider directory programming. That about sums it up for today. I hope you found this webinar informative, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Our first question today, what are the recommended starting point steps to implementing these suggestions?
Thanks, Ron. Well, in order to get the process started, it really starts with a strategic discussion. And our process normally involves a simple questionnaire that we provide to sort of lay out those starting point steps. And while the questions are simple, they open the door to some meaningful suggestions. Some of the examples of those questions might be, how are you populating your model documents? What is your total postage spend annually? If you have a mailroom, how many return mail pieces do you receive in a month? Or do you get calls from members who don't receive their ID cards? How many of those calls are you receiving? Once we have a real sense for what those pain points are, we pin together the outline of the timeline that I laid out earlier in the document, which pretty much scopes out all of the steps you need to take in order to take advantage of the postal discounts, the print techniques, and the data automation. And it really is more of a consultative process than it is a production process.
Okay. Well, looks like that is our only question for today. With that in mind, I'd like to thank everyone for attending and taking time out of their day to be here with us. I'd like to thank Gary and CommandDirect for an informative webinar. I want to remind everyone that the slide deck and recording will be posted on the ACAP website, and an email will be sent out when it's ready to view. Other than that, have a good day, and thanks for attending. Goodbye.
Thank you.